Hello, 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 and welcome to a new video. This time I have a reworked material for you, and you might remember it from probably one of my first videos I ever made on this channel, the space material that I made for my walker back in the day, for example, like the hull material. I have completely reworked this material for one of my upcoming projects, and this time I'm actually going to share it with you because it's simpler in a way and achieves more with less. And I think it looks pretty cool, and I think it can be a great tool in your arsenal if you want to procedurally texture a spaceship. So yeah, uh, this is gonna be a slightly longer tutorial, so serve yourself in, and let's go. Like usual with me, we are starting with a noise texture. So let's bring in a noise texture here. You'll need a lot of space for this, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to activate the screencast keys for you. Control T, let the mapping, object into vector. Let's preview it. We need a scale of 5 that stays. Again, use scales like you see fit, not how I do them. It can work in my case, it doesn't have to work in your case. Adjust them to your liking. Detail max, roughness 0.65, distortion 0.4, and let's get in a color ramp here. And this color ramp basically, because we're gonna do steps later where we don't want hard blacks, we're gonna reduce this to like something like this is probably quite good. So just so we have less contrast in this. We don't want this to be very contrasty, and this will be our basically base layer for our texture, for our main texture. Okay, bring this down a bit. Let's get a Musgrave texture into here. We'll back into vector again. Preview it. Scale of 10. Let's bring the detail up to max. Dimension 0. And this goes up to 2.6. In my case, I will probably bring down the scale a bit more, probably take a 5 or something. You can, again, use scales like you want, but I think in my case, 5 probably works better than what I did before, a 10. So, duplicate the color ramp, put this here, and now immediately less contrasty, this is what we want. Let's duplicate the texture, the Musgrave texture, put this down here, object into vector again, scale this time over 1, let's preview it. Let's change FBM to heteroterrain. And let's maybe a scale of 2. Well, let's take 2. Dimension of 0.2. This goes down to 2 again. And we want the details max, that is fine. Color ramp, drag and drop to here. Now let's take everything up this, bring this a bit backwards, and let's start doing this. Take these two, Control 0, change mix to lighten here, and bring this up to 1, and select these two, and bring this up to darken, and bring this up to 1. This will be basically our main texture. This right here that we did. So now we can plug in our color. So basically what we're going to do is let's plug in a color ramp here. Everything that this will basically dedicate the main dictate the main color of your object. So we are going to do stuff later that has specific color ramps attached to this color builder that we are going to generate here. So if you change the brightness / darkness of your object, of your texture here, you will have to adjust later color ramps. I will come back to that once we are there though. For now, I'm gonna do like a very normal thing, so probably something around this. And let's plug this into the base color and let's preview it. You can see not much yet. Let's get to material preview, or because my light setup for this isn't optimal. So let's do this. And you can see we have like a very small variety. If you want to have this, make this more, you can probably do this, and you see this better For my case, I'll probably leave it at this. Yes, you can see like the small texture on here, which is fine. That is exactly what we want, right? That is exactly what we want. Okay, let's get to the next step then. We want to build something that can basically give us an edgeware again, because I like edgeware, right? You know me, guys. But first, we are gonna build the surface things that break it. So let's again bring in a noise texture because we want a bit of surface that doesn't make this feel as monotone as it is right now. Control T, delete the mapping again, texture coordinate, object into vector, and let's see what we can do here. Duplicate this because we will need this again. Object into vector. And we now need a Musgrave texture too, so let's just bring on a Musgrave texture. And connect this to... Okay, let's start from the top. Sorry, we're using the Warner texture here. So this into that. And we'll get to that once we get to that. Okay, first, previous, color ramp into here. Bring this up to here, and this up to here. Scale, 10. Detail, max. Roughness, 6.2. Or 6.2. Distortion, 0.2. This one right here, let's preview it. We again need a color ramp, 30% to here. And we need this to be very, very close to each other, so something along the lines of this. Because what we're going to do is we're going to change this to distance to edge. We are going to add the detail to 15, roughness to 1, and distortion to 0.3. So now what this basically does is, right, if we did it correctly, and we are going to make the blacks a bit... Yeah, something around these lines. We will have a very nice thing that we can later use to basically have imperfections on our surface, which is what we want from this map. Okay, the Musgrave. Let's get to the Musgrave, because the Musgrave is important. Pivot, size 10, detail max, dimension 0.22, and this goes down to a 0.5. Maybe a bit more. Sorry, I need to change this to this, and then we can make this to 0.5. My bad, because we basically need this to be darker. Let's get an invert node into here. Exactly invert this, and let's duplicate the color ramp. Bring this here. Nope, not there. Bring this here, and then bring this to here, and we want to make this dark. So we have dark spots. For example, something along those lines. So select all of this, bring this up. Okay, let's begin, right? Okay, select the bottom and the top one, Ctrl 0 again, change this to lighten and 1. So you have these darker spots here that we will later use. And select this one and this one, Ctrl 0 again, and again lighten and 1. What you now have is you have these small little spots here, like these ones, which we are going to use to create some sort of dents in the material. They don't need to be a lot. They can be like very little and subtle. You can, of course, if they're not subtle, if they aren't enough for you, we will now adjust that with a color ramp. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a color ramp here. Put a color ramp here and just bring this up to here. And bring this up to here. So now we have these these spots basically, which serve one purpose, and that is to basically give us surface imperfections on specific parts of the mesh. This works quite well, but maybe probably something like this. I think this works pretty well. Okay, those will be very, very small. But they are small for a reason. You can obviously make them bigger if you want them to be bigger. I just like them to be very, very small, as in that way they're not that obvious. But I think it's a bit less, so let's bring them up a bit more. I actually need to find them for once. I think I made them too little. Yeah, there they are. So that feels about right. Yeah, that feels about it. Okay. So now we will need to build our Bevel node. Then we will combine all of them. Okay, so let's get in our double bevel node. One bevel, two bevels, like we always do. Bottom bevel goes to 0, goes to 2, this goes to 0, and this goes to 0.2. Again, this radius is dependent on your object. In my case, usually 0.2 works fine. Change mix to difference, and bring it to 1. Okay, this is still a bit thick, so probably that feels better. Yes, that feels way better. And now let's bring in a Musgrave texture again. I want this to be here. And we want to control T, delete the mapping again. You could use one texture coordinate for this, but I found that I would rather have it organized in groups and not have one that goes all over the place. Let's preview this. Scale of 0.2, we want it very small. And we want the detail to be maxed, and we want the dimension to be 0, and we want this to be 1.8. This feels about right. You can, of course, increase the scale if you would like this, but I feel like a very small scale for this is fine, because what we are going to do is we're going to basically select those two, mix, change this bottom part to factor, and this bottom, and this to color 2, and this to white. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to distort our edge bevel. So basically, we have something that we can put into the bump node that distorts our edges, so basically make it rough. And we could add ambient occlusion to it. I'm not going to do it this time because it's meant to be a spaceship, and spaceships don't really have like dirt in them because they're flying in space. But you could add an ambient occlusion to this, but I think this gives the reticle a very nice depth, and you will see in a second what I mean by this. So we will take this and this down here and press Ctrl 0. And we're gonna bring this here, and this goes into the base color. And we take this top part and bring this into factor. And the bottom color will now be the highlight material of the highlight of our material. So for example, you're gonna do this like a lighter gray, something like this. Let's preview it. You can already see what I mean, right? We're already getting so much more of this material. This, of course, means that you need like small details in your spaceship. Like you can't put this on like a flat surface and expect this to create depth, because where should it come from? This comes from geometry, and you need existing geometry for this to work. But if you do have existing geometry, this works very, very well. Okay, then let's build something more complicated. We need to integrate this part. How do we do that? Let's bring that a bit outwards. This comes closer, and Control 0. Again, this goes to the factor, and we will adjust this to be like to have like a metal thing, so something along these lines. And what you can see now is we basically made these dents here, there, and if we make them red, for example, like you can see them more clearly. But those are basically the dents that we generated, right? Like there, there. Those are just small things, right? You can, of course, make more of them if you want. I like them not being as in your face, but for example, if you would increase I have to look. If you would increase this right here, right, you will get more of them. Because this will basically, like here, you have to make this closer, and then you would get more of them. Or you bring this. No, not this. Should be this then. Awesome. Okay. Never mind. Forget what I said. But you can of course with this increase how many you have, or rather with the scale here, right? Okay. Let's preview this again, and I don't want this color. I want more blues or something wrong. Low sense. Let's preview it again. Okay, you can see them pretty well now. Okay, so now we're gonna need to sort of the roughness and the metallic. With the what we are gonna do for this is we are gonna use this as a base and then put it into a color ramp. So let's make a color ramp here, and then the metallic and color into color. Preview this. Okay, this is the part where I told you that you might need to adjust when you are gonna adjust this color. You need to adjust this color up as well, because what you're gonna do is we're gonna drag this forward till only our bevel edges are white, meaning they are metallic and the rest is not metallic. Why? Because you have a coat of paint over your surface of metal most of the times. So you don't want that to be metallic, but you want where the paint is not anymore, or bevel edges, to be metallic. So that's why we have this color ramp. If you, for example, would change this color to something lighter, you can see how that immediately kills our bevel edges. So you would have to adjust this color ramp again, right? And this color as well. This needs to be lighter than this color. Make sense? Makes sense. Good. Onwards. Let's preview it again. We also obviously now need this to be in the roughness, right? Because we need a roughness map for this. So what we're gonna do, duplicate the color ramp, plug it into roughness. We need to flip this though, and then plug this into this. And we basically don't want it to be super shiny, so this, and then bring this. Okay, you preview this, so you see we are already running into issues here now. Oh, because you used the wrong one. Good job. We want to use this one. Okay. So now we are yes, wait. Let me. Yeah, sorry. I adjusted it too much. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, that works. So, yep, that works well. Let's preview it. And again, you also need to adjust this color ramp again if you adjust this, right? So these two, you need to constantly juggle around your base color here. Final step before we are done. Let's insert a bump map, because that we need that too. Bump into normal, we need two of them, so we can duplicate them. This one stays at 1, this one goes to 0.6 or 0.4, I think. 0.4 probably is better. Okay, again, another color ramp you will have to juggle. This goes into height. Then the color ramp. So duplicate this. This can pretty much be exactly the same, so just drag and drop the first one, just drag and drop the one you did for the metallic into here. And you can now see that basically the edges that we made are now being bumped. So you can they have distortion, and you can now invert them, and they go inwards, and it's very nice. You can probably put them a bit higher so you can see it more. So you can see here how they are getting kind of this like rusty effect, which is great. We want that, right? We want that. And now let's add the final part, which is this top part here that we made, which is this color ramp. So just drag and drop that into the height. And we're done with the material. This is my go-to space material, hull material for spaceships. It works really great. You have a lot of details. Obviously, like this isn't really like the best example for it, because it's very big object and it probably works better on like smaller details, but I think you get the means of what I'm trying to show you here. You can of course adjust this however you want, but I feel like this has worked very, very well for me, especially when you start adding color into this. For example, if I would change this to like a red, just make this a bit, you really start getting like actual material depth into this. And I feel like this looks really, really cool and works great as a surface material. I hope I could help you and teach you something today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.